I'm Nathan, your friendly neighborhood Akashic Tranceworker, and welcome to Lesson 8 in our 22 Days of Trancework series. Today, for those of you who are joining us live, as well as those of you who are watching this as a recorded lesson, I want to talk about the lower self. The lower self is the body intelligence. The lower self is what allows us to move physically through the world. It allows us to engage with the physical world. It allows us to move and experience life. It allows us to enjoy life. And oftentimes, especially in this busy world, we don't pay that much attention to the needs of the lower self. We don't always listen to what our bodies need. Maybe we abuse ourselves with the foods that we eat or the things that we drink. Maybe we don't sleep enough or exercise enough. Or maybe we just don't know how to relax well enough. And really that's what it's all about, is relaxation. It really doesn't matter how well you do all those other things. You can eat perfectly, you can exercise all day long, you can do all kinds of things to try and nurture yourself. But if you don't know how to, excuse me, if you don't know how to relax, if you don't know how to soothe yourself enough that you can go into a place of rest, repair, regeneration, rejuvenation at the end of the day, then your health, your mental and your physical health will suffer. So the point of all of this is that we in Akashic Trancework have developed a process where we go through and we look at the different aspects of being. In the last couple of lessons that we've done, if you haven't seen these, they're all available on our Facebook page and our Facebook group. You will be connecting today with your lower self. That's the point of all of the work that we do in Akashic Trancework, is making peace with the lower self so that the higher self can expand. We don't really need to teach you how to expand, how to use your higher senses. You do that automatically. What we enable you to do is find that portal, that connection with the lower self, so that you can safely relax the body enough to have these higher astral experiences. So when we talk about the lower self, when we talk about the different aspects, again, we've talked about a higher self, we've talked about the heart mind. What we're really talking about is the lower energy centers. You can conceptualize these in many different ways. We talk about our lower chakras, right? Our solar plexus, our sacral, our root chakra. We can also think of the gut brain, if you know what that is, the trillions and trillions of neurons that live in our lower intestines. It's really, though, our entire physical experience. It's that automatic, autonomic, conditioned self that it's a very important part of our existence. And it's that part that we tend not to want to think about too much because it is so conditioned. And it's this conditioning that we in Akashic Trancework are trying to get beneath. We're trying to release some of the conditions that have created and informed some of what are sometimes called maladaptive or destructive behaviors. All of us have compulsive, impulsive behaviors that sometimes crop up, reactions, responses to things. This happens to all of us sometimes. So what do we do when this happens? Well, most of us don't really know how to make sense of it. We might blame, we might accuse, we might try and deflect, we might try to rationalize. But the real reason that we tend to do things that we know are against our best nature, our best benefit, addictive things, compulsive things, aggressive things, things that obviously are not the most wise or compassionate thing to do, we tend to go one way or the other. We either rationalize those things or we judge ourselves. It's important to have accountability. We do need to have levels of accountability, for sure. We need to make amends and apologize and repair sometimes. But most of the behaviors that we have, that we express, the ones that seem impulsive, the ones that seem uncontrollable, most of those behaviors are because of the conditions that you were brought up in, your childhood conditions, the conditions of your young adulthood, and even the conditions now. All the conditions around you are continually all conspiring in a very real way to continually mold you, to turn you into who you are, to create your personality, your experience, your inner experiences. So in trance work, what we do is we try and get a sense of what are those conditions? What are those conditions and how do they feed into our consciousness? How do they feed into our awareness? How do they affect and impact and inform us? Where are they? Well, those conditions are stored in our bodies as memory. Someday, at some point in your life, maybe you got burned by a flame. So now, every time you see a flame, you know that it has that potential to burn you. You have a single piece of information, flame, and you have another piece of information, pain. And your mind associates those two things together. And that creates what we sometimes call flagging. All of the information that you have stored within your biochemical cellular memory, within each strand of DNA in your body, all of that information has an association, has a label to it. It's going to be, typically speaking, one of three things. A sense object is good, a sense object is neutral, or a sense object is bad. Now, we tend to discard most of the sense objects, the things that we see, if they're neutral, if they don't have any relevance to us. Our conscious mind never thinks about them. They're filtered out by our limbic system, by our midbrain. The things that are good, typically speaking, we will accept, and we often chase after those things. That's really one of the biggest motivations of the human experience, is to feel good, to feel happy, to feel fulfilled. So we really hunger for those things that our cellular memory tells us is good, those things that our bodies tell us are good. So what about those things that are bad? Well, those are the tricky things, right? Because our bodies don't really know the difference between something happening in the past and something happening now. If we are thinking about something, if it triggers an experience that we have labeled as bad in our minds, or if we're seeing something, if our senses trigger something, then most of the time, especially if we've had a lot of these difficult, challenging experiences, it will trigger a state of dis-ease or distress or disharmony, even panic or fear. This is what sometimes is called the post-traumatic stress response, the fight or flight response, right? When something that happens triggers a memory of something that happened possibly a very long time ago, and suddenly your body feels like it's right there where it was. And I speak from memory. I have suffered many post-traumatic experiences in my life. My partner has too, and this modality has largely been developed to work through those experiences. And beyond, we've come to understand how powerful our sense memory, our sensory associations are. A couple questions here. And just so you know, I wanted to point out, Kelly, this is actually not the main course. This is a free course that we're doing right now. We will be starting the full initiation on the 15th. So those of you who are planning on joining us, all of that starts on the 15th. So check your email and see if you have that enrollment information. And if you need enrollment information, or if you're not yet enrolled, let us know. And Karen, I don't have a weight loss meditation right now, but that's a great suggestion. So we are continually looking for suggestions of things to add. We'll be adding some guided journeys about addiction, about weight loss, about sleep, some different tools that you can use. So great questions. And that actually very much rolls in with what we're talking about, right? Because when we carry extra weight, or if we experience depression, anxiety, these are communications from the body, right? In order to try and relieve some of the dense, negative, painful conditioning that drives our behaviors, our impulsive, compulsive, addictive behaviors, we have to learn how to listen to our lower selves. We have to learn how to understand what it is we are trying to protect ourselves from, what it is we are trying to medicate, what it is we are resisting, what we're resisting. That's really what our bodies will tell us. And whenever our bodies are expressing pain, if you're feeling any sensations right now, any physical sensations, pain or pleasure, that's your body communicating with you. Now, this body intelligence is very simple in how it communicates with us. If it feels bad, it will tell us with pain. If it feels good, it tells us with pleasure. But sometimes the sensations that we have are a little bit more subtle. We might identify a feeling as being anxiety or stress or fear. But sometimes our immediate judgment of that feeling is based on, well, these stored cellular memories of painful experiences. And we'll make judgments not based on what's happening right now, but on what happened a very long time ago. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about cellular memory in the next couple of lessons, but one thing to note is that it's not just your cellular memory. It's the cellular memory of all of your ancestors and all of your past lives. We all have access to the greater pool of cellular memory. That's what the Akashic theory is about. We can all access all of that information as a field. It's a field of energy that we can access. So as we begin to access our own inner field of memory, so to speak, we start to have responses. We're communicating, we're connecting with our bodies, is what we're doing. We're opening up a dialogue in a way that we often don't. So there are actually many ways that we can do this, many ways that we can begin to establish a connection with our physical selves, especially those of us who have a tendency towards addictive, compulsive types of behaviors. Sometimes that conversation has not been had for a long time. So one of the ways that people sometimes do this is through inner child work. But that can become very emotional. It can be very difficult, especially if you went through childhood abuse. It's not always the best way to do it. So one of my favorite ways to connect with the lower self is through what I sometimes call animal magic. By connecting with an animal being, a spirit, a totem, a guide, whatever you want to call that being, that represents our lower selves, because our lower selves are animals. We're instinctive, intuitive, conditioned beings. And if you ever doubt that, try going without food or water for a few days and see who takes over. It'll be your lower self fighting to survive. It's important to be grateful for the lower self. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So for those of you who are new to trance work, who haven't attended our workshops before, a lot of what we do is guided visualization, guided meditation. So what I like to do is take some time to connect for this particular lesson with the spiritual animal consciousness. And each of you has a special animal. Each of you does. And that animal is your lower self. It's your spirit animal. And that animal will tell you everything you need to know about your body's condition. So I would like to guide those of you who are with us through this process, if you're open to it. Let's just take some time to find a nice, comfortable spot. Take some nice, deep, grounding, centering breaths. I'd like you to just really think of some things right now that you're grateful for. This will bring you fully to center as you feel your heartbeat. Just listen to your heartbeat for a moment. And as you do this, I want you to think of one animal that you feel most represents your spirit, your inner self, any kind of animal. And now, pretend that you are that animal. Imagine that you are moving through your natural environment. Where are you? Are you in the sky, on the ground, in the water, underground maybe? You have a very different set of senses. You can smell differently, you can taste differently, you can hear differently. Take some time to explore this environment. Find food. What do you eat? Do you hunt? Do you forage? Do you travel with a pack or a mate or alone? Maybe you have young. Do you care for them, or are they on their own? Move through this natural environment. These are your oldest cellular memories, for your animals are your ancestors too. Remember them. Now, take some time to explore the environment further. Breathe in the air or the water. Feel the texture around you. Is it warm? Is it cold? How do you move? Do you have wings, legs, flippers, tentacles? Connect with this animal form. Feel them. Feel what it is like to live in this primal state. Notice what matters to you. Do you care in this form about what you look like? About what other creatures think of you? Do you care about what's happened in the past? Or are you always there in the moment, present, surviving, thriving in your environment, adapted fully, at peace? Take a deep breath. Step back, remembering that you are a human, not an animal. and rest back into your heart space for a moment. Just rest there. You'll notice that the animal that you call to you is still there with you. Still there with you, and they are moving in a certain way that expresses the state of your lower self. Is it relaxed, calm, or vigilant and on guard? Is there a reason for that vigilance if it's there? Maybe something bad happened at some point. But most likely right now, nothing bad is happening. I want you to soothe your lower self, even if they're already relaxed. I want you to put a hand on them and soothe them. Send them love. Send them energy. Send them calming peace. Pat them lightly. Help them relax. Now I want you to express your gratitude to your lower self. Your lower self has protected you, nurtured you, nourished you, brought you many, many amazing experiences. This is the beginning of a new level of your relationship. The relationship between higher self and lower self here in the heart center. It's the place you meet, place you process these things. For some people, higher self and lower self don't always get along. How well does your higher self and your lower self get along? How well do they connect? Spend some time bringing them together. They work together very well. Lower self protects, higher self guides. Allow that perfect system that is you to flourish now. With a deep breath. And come back to your senses fully, looking around, stretching. So when we do these workshops live in our initiation series, they're interactive. So I don't know how many of you who are live here did this along with me, but I'd love to hear about what kind of animal represents your lower self, your spirit self, your physical experience. What kind of animal are you? I love hearing about that. So I want to thank all of you for taking some time to connect with me and learn about these things. There can be some discomfort that happens when we start to face the lower self, and that's normal. That's normal. So we provide tools in our forthcoming lessons and also in our workshop series, again, which is starting on the 15th, 2 days, less than 2 days. So if you want to get on board, check your email, let us know, we'll get you enrolled. Otherwise, I really appreciate you. For those of you who are still watching, what I normally do at the end of these lessons is provide a sort of tonal light language attunement. And last time we focused on the heart center and the higher energy centers. So today I really want to ground and root into the lower self, the physical experience. So as I tone with you, what I would like to do is just take some time to appreciate ourselves, to appreciate our bodies. So just take a moment, sit back and breathe. Onorawan huwa shearuwan hearuwan shearu hearu. you want to tone and chant with me, you should. Anawantro eahu shan weahu nurandrawas searu shanairawandru sharewandru sharewandru wandeu. Are Andre Wasro Nuana Heanura Wansharu Avenaru Haveru Andravazehu Shana Heanu Andre Shandre Wehanu Aneru Ave Andrew, Shenaru, Ahiru. Gorevanjaro no Ave Andrazunanu, Ferwandru, Meu Andravanu. Hare Andravahe Naru Naruane Duravane. Wow. I hope that those of you who were open to receiving that found benefit in that and found benefit in what we talked about today. This is some really important stuff. Not always the easiest to face, but if we can face it down with courage, with commitment, with dedication and commitment to really changing, then we can achieve something that most people don't. So I want to thank all of you for being present with us. Reach out to me if you would like to talk about any of these topics more in depth. I'm very open to it. Again, we'll be starting our intensive workshop series on the 15th. So reach out and let me know if you'd like to be involved in that. I'd also like to offer any of you who are still watching a free 20-minute session. If you haven't had one of those yet, reach out to me. We can talk about some ways that trance work can help you. So we appreciate you. Deepest blessings. Until next time.